So welcome everyone to CameraFlips, the best place to buy and sell used camera gear. So today I have a new guest, Daniel Sofr from Chiang Mai, Thailand. I'm very, very excited. Daniel can cover so many aspects about, the transition from, hobbyist, part-time, full-time photographer, is young, incredibly talented. You will see the link on his Instagrams, absolutely fantastic. And you'll see some of the pictures as well that we're about to show today. And although Daniel is pretty young, has a lot to say about the photography world. And as always, I am very curious to see how you started your journey, Daniel, into the photography and videography world. If you can share your personal journey with the audience.
Hey, yeah, so my name's Daniel. I'm 20 years old. I just turned 20 last year in September. And so I've been doing photography for around a year and a half now. I started in late September 2019-ish. And, it was pretty much by pure coincidence. I happened to just see a camera for sale on Facebook and I was like, oh, I'll just buy it and see what I can do. I originally bought it for video, for live streaming and stuff like that. But then funnily enough, at the same time, when I was trying to watch tutorials on YouTube on how to use my camera and stuff like that, I started to get recommended stuff of not Peter McKinnon, but similar kind of style photo vloggers, kind of photography vloggers, people who kind of take photos for a living and they just kind of document, their shoots and stuff like that. So I got super, super into it. I originally got into it to do automotive photography, but the car scene in Chiang Mai is not that big, or I don't know enough people yet because I'm half Thai, so I'm kind of local but not local at the same time. And so over the past year, I've kind of just started to fall more in love with photography and so invested a lot more. And now I'm in the transitional phases of going from a hobbyist to almost someone who's full time. So yeah, I do all types of different styles. Portrait, landscape, a bit of travel. I've done a bit of sports and automotive as well. And, I'm not really biased on anything. I don't have a preference, but, I think that it's just something that I really love to do. And it's a huge passion of mine. And I definitely look forward to being able to learn so much more and experience so much more, work for these amazing new big clients and companies, and as well as for small businesses. It's always fun to work with individuals as well. And so I'm really, really excited to see what the future has for me.
When did you realize that this was, could be more than a passion, but actually, a way of supporting yourself, supporting your art while supporting yourself? There was a moment, an event, meeting something that you're like, okay, this is more than a hobby.
I'll have to I remember because I know it sounds crazy because I've only been doing it for a year and a half now. I remember my first paid job was, I think, 2 or 3 months after I bought my first camera. I started on a small Sony A5100, and within already, I think, 2 or 3 months, I've already upgraded to an A7 Mark II. So that was just a couple of months, and I already upgraded to full frame. And now, I think around that time where when I got my A7 II, I didn't fully yet realize that or I wasn't confident enough to be able to be all right, I'm going to do this for a career and a living, right? I kind of thought to myself, hey, I can at least make a little bit of money on the side or something like that. But, around February and, February, March, April of 2020, I really started to, kind of get motivated and excited and be all right, I've got to really try and push myself to do this. And then so around June June last year, I already bought another camera, an A7 Mark III. So I'm on my third body within only a year. And so the past year, it's been really good for me. I've done most of my work has been for small businesses and some real estate, not huge companies though, but some motorcycle dealerships as well and stuff like that. Most of it were friends or friends of friends, right? But it's been well enough for me that I've been able to basically pay off most of the gear and most of my investment into the photography and videography world. I would say majority of my income, if I had to split it, maybe 60 to 70% is actually video work, and 30 to 40% is photography work, right? Because video just pays better, takes more time, and there's a lot more skill involved. not to say that photography takes less skill, but it's I think it's a lot more time intensive, and especially takes quite a bit of planning here because not a lot of videographers in Chiang Mai, especially. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey over the past year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, Eddie, but I'm curious because you seem already on a super hardcore Sony fan in terms of gear. And I mean, I tell everyone, I often people ask me, what should I buy, and I have to say, I think that Sony is, since the transition to mirrorless camera, I think that they made so many right decisions. Do you see? Have you had the chance to try, for example, the new, I don't know, Canon, R, or the new, Nikon Z, and if so, do you see any difference? Do you still believe that Sony is so far ahead, or they're catching up?
I haven't had a chance to try any of the newer mirrorless cameras. I mean, I've used some of the more famous Canon DSLRs like 5D, 6D. Nothing too major yet. I mean, the reason why I got into Sony was mainly because I wanted a pretty simple and kind of like an all-in-one camera at first. With the A5100, something that's really user friendly. And then I just kind of looked and saw, because I buy most of my gear used, right? It just makes more sense as someone who's like, at the time I was 19, so I'm pretty much broke, so I can't really afford to buy brand new camera equipment. So just in Thailand in general, there's a huge market. If I had to split it, I'd say like maybe 10% of people use Nikon, and like another 10-15% use Fuji, and the rest is split evenly between Canon and Sony. So when you're buying used gear, you just have so much choice between Canon and Sony. But a lot of people especially have gone towards mirrorless Sony. So it's like, if you're going to buy something used, it's way easier to find a mirrorless Sony camera than it is to find a Canon. And mirrorless is the future. So I was like, I might as well just get a Sony mirrorless. And I just really appreciate the lenses, how they have a one mount system. That's really nice for me as well. That's like something that I'm huge on, because if I get some friends who have Sony cameras, we can just share our lenses together, and so it's like we save a lot of money doing it that way. I think that definitely Canon has caught up to Sony now for sure. But it's people like say Canon's better than Sony and Nikon or whatever, but for me, I think that definitely, based, because I'm a very kind of like technical and specs kind of guy. I'm a huge computer guy as well, so I'm always looking at like what are all the numbers, what has higher megapixel count and face detection, focus points, and everything like that. And I'd say like we've kind of reached a point where it's almost if unless you're shooting action or sports or something like that, where you need like insane like 20 frames per second, 30 frames per second, for most people it's really redundant. It doesn't make much difference, if you're comparing the top of the line cameras with each other. If you're not someone who needs the cutting edge, or someone kind of like I would say a prosumer, or someone who's like intermediate or beginner professional, I think it doesn't make a huge difference what you get, because most of the offerings are pretty good. It becomes a little bit different if you're doing like video and photography. Then your selection is kind of limited more. But honestly, I'd say it depends on what you can get your hands on. Like the best camera is the camera that you have. So if you can't afford the newest and greatest, that's not a problem. You should just go for what you can actually get your hands on, right? And start doing that, because it's definitely like experience comes before your gear. Helps a lot, definitely, but for sure, if you can't get something, it's best to work with what you can get and what you have.
And did you feel? I mean, obviously, experience is fundamental. Like you need to get your hands dirty in the field. But did you feel, because you upgraded so fast, did you feel that also saved you time, or allowed you to have a wider range of options? Like you really upgrade. Like people sometimes tend to wait a little bit longer to get familiar, maybe to really consider options. You were pretty confident in obviously the brand, but also the various iteration of the A7R, and you feel that paid off as an investment, like definitely good value for your money.
Yeah, for sure. I think like what I pick is definitely I had to think about it a lot because I'm not someone with a lot of disposable income. So when I make my choices, I really got to think about obviously if I could I just have all the cameras, but I can't. I can't. So I think like the A7 Mark III, what I have right now is probably one of like the best value cameras you can get right now if you get it used. The prices are dropping as well because Sony is releasing new cameras, which is I saw the new A1 and I'm like, well,
already
so this is
bank account. Think of your
yeah,
bank account.
but I think that I was also pretty lucky as well. I have to say that every time I upgraded, I just got like a handful of new jobs that paid for the majority of the camera itself. So I wasn't sweating too hard. But yeah, I've already gotten quite a few lenses as well. I started out with manual lenses, and I've already upgraded to I think I'm on my fifth or sixth lens now. I'm just using two lenses now. Mainly I use 16 to 35 f4, the Carl Zeiss, and 85 just standard 85 from Sony. Mainly just because I use a 16 to 35 because I like that wide angle. It helps a lot for video work, especially. And I would get the G Master if I could, but it's quite expensive, quite expensive as well. And the 85, I just really like the 85 focal length, so I decided to get that.
Nice. And so you're entirely self-taught, or did you take any course like
Oh,
YouTube? Like
everything. Yeah, everything I know is from YouTube and just kind
fantastic.
of going on with it. If I'm the type of person where if I'm gonna get into something, like I get like really, really into it, and I do tons and tons of research and try to like learn as fast as possible. Mainly because I don't like how do I explain this in a non like pretentious way? I don't like to be the I don't like to be someone who's bad at something, like it feels bad,
A
I don't like to
perfectionist.
be that.
A
Yeah, I'm kind of
perfectionist.
like a perfectionist almost,
Yeah.
where like if I'm gonna do something, I need to do it properly, and I really want to make sure that like my work is good and I stand out. So I've been doing photos every weekend, going out and shooting for a couple of hours every weekend for the past 1.5 years, 2 years now. And so that's really what taught me the most, I would say. Sure, at the start like YouTube was really, really useful, but once I understood the basic like how to use my camera in a manual setting, then like the rest was just me learning out, going out and figuring out how to do everything.
Great, great. And in terms of work, and before we go into actually the results of this, years of effort in the, every day or every weekend, I have a few pictures that I'm really keen to discuss. Many times when I discuss with photographers, they may be very good on the technical side. They're great artists. They have a great vision, but they struggle to market themselves. They struggle to find work. And sometimes they are not definitely helped by at least in here in the UK and in Europe by because of the COVID-19 epidemic to really shut down many activities. What would be your advice for people that they're trying to again transform a hobby into a passion, or at least get some money on the side to at least pay for the gear, and then potentially how did you grow so fast in this domain?
um a good a good way is to oversell yourself. I definitely say, don't overpromise, but that's definitely helped me a lot. Where sometimes people say, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do that?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And then after I'm done talking to them, I'm like, "All right, now how do I do this? I need to figure this out fast." I mean, obviously, there's a difference between not being confident that you can do it. All those times I was definitely like, like I had the drive, I had the passion. I was like, I will get this done, and I was pretty confident that I could do it. For example, like my first couple of video shoots, they're like, "Hey, can you do some like short commercial for us or something like that?" And I was like, yeah, I can do that. But at the time I didn't have or barely had any experience, but in the end they really liked my work, and they were happy with it. So but at the same time I was pretty confident, and I made sure to do my research right afterwards, as well as I think at the start best way to do it is networking. That's very, very important. If you can get jobs from people that that's like always a good kind of place to start with and build up your portfolio. I mean, I have a majority of, I'd say almost all my work has been through referrals. So once you get people, a good way is also to just meet new people. If you join kind of groups on Facebook or look for kind of like local communities. I think that's the best place to start. And then once you work with people, they'll recommend you to other people, and that's kind of how I started to branch out. I don't at the moment, I don't have much in terms of marketing for myself, because everything is referrals. I'm too busy at the moment to go full time. I'd like to go full time soon, but I have a family business, a restaurant, so that takes up too much of my time to be able to like go full time. On top of that, I also work full time at an office, so I'm juggling a tons of things at the moment. At 20, my days are quite long. I get up at around 8 o'clock, and then I finish at around 9:30 p.m. in the evening. And so whenever I have time to do photography work or videography work, I'm doing that just so that one day, in hopes that I'm really close to that point where I can quit my full-time job and just kind of focus on doing photography and videography full time.
Oh, it's fantastic, especially because it happened in such a short period of time and in a moment where many people are struggling. So that's really it's clear that quality stands out and sets on its own feet, right? But that's at the end of the day, over delivering, it's the key. And even if you don't know, someone offers you an opportunity, you better learn fast and take it rather than say no, right? As Richard Branson said that, and I think that you you perfectly embody it. Let me share something. Let me see if I can share my screen at the moment, because I'm curious now to really put some pictures into this conversation. Let's see, there you go. You see the screen?
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, okay. First of all, what a cool shot and what a cool place. I mean, I don't have there's sometimes that's interesting. Not only you perfectly subject's perfectly sent to say, but you're on top of an airplane that clearly has not been used for quite some time. I don't have anything like that near London, where I live. Where are you? In the picture.
I'm actually the one taking the photo. The
Yeah,
person sitting
yeah.
on top is my friend.
Yeah.
We are, well, I found this on Google Maps. I was location scouting, and this is kind of like an hour's drive from the main city in Chiang Mai, and it's like a small airplane graveyard. And so there are a bunch of abandoned planes. This is the only full plane, that's there's just wings and smaller little like 2-seater planes, and maybe like small planes that hold 4 or 5 people, stuff like a Cessna kind of. And so I saw it on Google Maps. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. I gotta grab my friend, so we gotta go there for a shoot. And so I got my friend to climb out the window. We I have a bunch of other photos, but I think this was the best one, where we climbed out and went on top of the airplane, which was pretty thrilling. That was pretty fun. And so I just thought that to kind of get him to sit here and post like that would make like a really, really good kind of like a poster shot, almost like a cover for maybe an album or like a movie poster or something like that. So I thought, I just at the moment I was like, yeah, I think with the sky and this kind of like old and kind of like rotting airplane, I think the setting is perfect.
It's a fantastic scene. I mean, you can use that scenery for so many things. And as you said, they can I can see a few words and overlaid on top. And again, it could be anything. Definitely an album. Definitely the cover of a book or whatever. It's fantastic, and it's just open. You can just show up and go there. No fences to like. It is legal. You just show up and and take your pictures and climb.
I mean, when we went there was like a gate, but it was a very sad excuse of a gate that you could literally just like, it's like a couple like 1 meter tall. You can just hop over it, and it's open sometimes, it's closed sometimes. I mean, like, they recently held a music festival at this place where they had like the DJ booth kind of like on the wing of the plane, which was pretty interesting. So as far as I know, it's open, completely open to the public. I mean, there was a gate, but it's like kind of just open, and we were there for a few hours and no one bothered to stop. And from all the people that I have known that have gone there, no one has ever ran into any trouble. So and I'm kind of more like a even if it's kind of off limits, I just do it anyways. And then if someone says, hey, you can't do that, I'm like, oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry.
Better better to ask for for forgiveness rather than for permission, right? That's and did you this also seems a good setting for like a drone videography, for example. Do you
Mm.
happen to use it
Yeah.
as well, or
Yeah,
okay?
I got a couple of shots of my friend running down the top of the airplane, which was really nice. I'm like, drones are pretty interesting. I think that might be a good topic for later, because the drone kind of industry is changing so much. Whereas, before drones were like, whoa, you have like the DJI Phantom and stuff like that, and it was this new thing. But now you have the AI in drones is so advanced that you can basically just send it up by itself and it'll do whatever you want by itself. You can just say, "Oh, circle around this point," follow the terrain. You can just leave it and do whatever. So I feel like the market and the skill gap for drones has really closed. The new thing now is FPV. That's something I'm actually getting into because motorsports is something that I definitely can see myself working as. I mean, the idea is that
Sorry, FPV.
uh,
I don't know what that is. So would help me myself and
oh,
people listening.
okay. So I'm not sure if you've seen those clips, but FPV basically means first person view. So those are
Ah, right.
those
Okay. Okay.
so those little drones that are like 5 inches where you
Right.
wear the goggles and then you can see the perspective of the drone. So those like
Right.
racing drones. Yeah, and so that's definitely the future. I mean, DJI just released their own FPV drone, like uh, a month ago or something like that, or they're selling it now, and so that's definitely the future. I can see that definitely in being a huge thing in motorsports or like sports in general. You have this drone that can fly so close to the action that it's almost like you're in the action, and so that's the new thing now, definitely. So I feel like drones like DJI Mavic Pros and Phantoms, they're kind of like almost old now, and everyone's sick and tired of seeing the same just boring panning shot or like just going fly over and stuff like that. So when you can get those really really nice shots of like flying in loops and flying super close to the action, barely touching the subject, scraping against the ground and stuff like that, that's really really amazing stuff. So I'm working on that right now. I'm learning at the moment. I'm getting pretty good at it, but nowhere near enough where I would be confident in approaching a big major organization being like, hey, can you hire me? Well, the idea is that usually if you want to get into the world of photography or videography, you got to spend a couple of years grinding out the smaller jobs to get a portfolio, and then kind of be like, hey, look at this, I can hire me. But since FPV is still pretty new, especially in Thailand, if you're one of the first people who are really good at it, then you get to pick whoever you want to work for, because they have no one else to choose from. And so that's just kind of cuts it short by 4 or 5 years if you're lucky.
So maybe your suggestion for someone that would like to again sort of leapfrogging from
Mm.
hobbies to a professional is, again, this is something that is very disruptive. In your opinion, this is sort of this transformation is not only here to stay, but it's going to change the way people consume certain content. It's actually new content in a certain way, a new way
Mm.
of capturing those things, and it's still pretty open. So there's
Mm.
an opportunity for people to develop an expertise. I guess it's do you need any I don't know, a license to fly? Because flying objects is not only is complicated, but can also be probably, I don't know, sometimes forbidden in certain areas. You need to have special permissions.
Uh,
How does that work?
oh man, I think that's pretty. It's like it's really situational. I mean, I know, like for example, in Thailand, it's like if a drone is not more than like 2 kilograms, or if it's not bigger than a certain size, and you don't have to register it or whatever.
Good.
I think, and the problem is that drones are still kind of new technology, and not everyone has drones. And now that more and more people are getting drones, the laws and regulations around them are constantly changing. Right. And so I think that really depends on where you are, and you kind of got to make sure. But I mean, like in most case scenarios, I mean, I've never had any problems with flying drones and stuff like that. Even in the city, I usually just get restricted to a height limit because most drones now have GPS. But
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, I mean, if most of the things that you are going to be using FPV drone for are pretty much going to be, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, like, if you're shooting at a motorsports event, you're shooting at a racetrack, I think it'll be fine. But if you're going to fly it out in the city or something like that, you should be pretty pretty careful that you don't fly it into someone, because those things go fast. They go like, they can go easily over 100 kilometers per hour, and so that's a pretty dangerous thing to do. So you just got to be kind of responsible and be safe, and you should be fine. I mean, I don't know how it is in Western society, where because police and government really likes to fine people for everything they do. So flying a drone, I don't know, it'd be like $500 fine or something, but here it's probably a slap on the wrist and they say like, oh, you don't fly here, and then you're good to go. So yeah, I don't know really what I can say about that to anyone who's outside of kind of like the more relaxed kind of areas around Southeast Asia and Asia. Usually you can just send it, and most people don't bat an eye.
Yeah. I mean, here, I mean, I guess it depends. If you're obviously in the cities, it's a different. If you're outside, I think that precisely also because it's quite new, right? People don't really know how to behave. Well, what's the difference where the threshold is. Obviously, nowhere near airports. That's the only suggestion. Otherwise, that's a big problem. But apart from that, here as well, just as you said, just be cautious. But it's also a great opportunity to try. But did you learn this again by yourself, watching YouTube videos, or do you have other resources that you recommend?
I basically just watch YouTube again. I mean, this is something that you really, really need to get a feel for. When you're flying these kind of drones, there's no tips or tricks or anything like that. The most that you can learn from YouTube is kind of like what you can either buy a pre-built drone or you can build your own drone, right? And so I definitely recommend building your own drone, because if you're flying an FPV drone, this thing goes like over 100 kilometers per hour. It's this tiny little 5-inch thing that you're going to be crashing over and over again. So you're definitely going to break it. There's no way you're not going to break it. That was actually a bit of a controversy with the new DJI FPV drone. They gave it to a bunch of influencers and YouTubers and to fly, and there were a few of them who crashed it, and after the first crash, the arm one of the arms just broke, right? And since it's like a DJI product, you have no idea how to fix this, right? So you got to send it to them or whatever. And will they cover that under warranty or something like that? There's going to be a lot of drones crashing because it's so accessible now. And so definitely, I think this is something that you just got to try and practice over and over again before you get really, really good. Kind of like what's a good comparison? Like I'd say like driving a car or riding a motorcycle. There are a few like kind of like general guidelines. Like obviously don't go full throttle the whole time, basic common sense stuff. But, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. Kind of, there's no secret shortcut to becoming good at FPV.
How many hours of flying do you have, do you think, under your belt?
Ooh, I've been doing, I mean, most of my time is in simulator. So I've been doing trying to do at least around an hour per day for the past couple of months. So yeah, I've got quite a bit of time. But my friend, he has an FPV drone, and I try it sometimes. It's pretty fun.
So do you have? So is there a simulator, a proper simulator of FPV drones?
Yeah. There are quite a few as far as I know, but the one I use is called Velocidrone, and I mean it's not cheap. It's, if I can remember, it's like 17 pounds or something like that, close to 20 pounds, 20 euros, right? And then you need to buy your own radio transmitter as well, obviously, right? So the actual controller, which is as well, that could cost like anywhere of like $150 or something like that for like a entry level one to, God knows how much for a professional one. So yeah, if you want to try it, I definitely suggest just get a simulator and buy you can buy an entry level radio transmitter, it's called, a controller. Yeah. And because it's not that expensive. I mean, it's like if you buy one for $150, you could probably sell it for like, what, $100, something like that. Take a small hit, and if you don't like it, or if it's too hard, then you just sell it, and what you lose, you learn something that you don't want to do. So I think it's definitely worth trying. It's really fun as well, even if you don't want to do it as a career. Just flying this little thing in the first person view, doing all kinds of loops and flying through buildings and small cracks and stuff like that is really fun and exhilarating.
It's fantastic that people think of photography. Maybe they don't think about that, which is you're going to attract a completely different range of people that now can combine their passion for certain things and obviously photography, which is fascinating. Let me go back to, sorry, let me see. I would like to share another picture of yours, which is quite fitting, I would say, with this like fast velocity topic. Let me see if I can share it. There you go. Look at this. Look at this beauty. How do you take the shot? It's
Uh,
beautiful. It's beautiful.
so this is actually my first time. So I'm not sure how well versed you are in like automotive photography terms, but this is called a roller, right? So the idea is that you there will be two cars. There'll be like an A car and a B car, and so the photographer, or in the more professional setting, you would use a kind of like a crane system that's
Yeah.
attached to the car you want to take a photo of, right? And hang the camera on. Maybe it's like controlled by a gimbal or something like that. And then you put a lower shutter speed so that the background is blurry and stuff like that. And you get this nice, the car is all sharp and in focus, and the background is kind of blurry. So it gives this sense of speed and velocity, right? And so obviously I can't afford that. So what me and my friends did were I got and shout out to my friends Harley and Alex. Thank you so much for this. I really wanted to try it. So, got my friend Harley. That was actually the guy sitting on the airplane inside this Mercedes. And my other friend Alex, who was driving his car, and we just opened the trunk and I sit in the back of the car. And we're going around about 70, 80 kilometers per hour. There's not that much motion blur, sadly, because it was nighttime. So I really couldn't put the shutter speed any lower. But yeah, very, very happy with this. I actually think Mercedes sent me like a little care package, souvenir package, because they saw this. I tagged them on Mercedes Thailand that did. So I was really proud of that. That was really happy. And, this was kind of like my attempt at like a little bit of automotive photography. It's been a while since I've done it, but I was really, really happy with the shot, how it turned out. I feel like this is definitely like magazine worthy, in my opinion. I definitely could use some retouching in Photoshop, removing a bit of distracting elements and stuff like that. But like for a base picture, I think this is really, really good. And I'm very, very happy with this shot. That what I remember was seeing that like Mercedes saying like, "Hey, we really like your thing. Send us your address." And I was super, super happy, jumping up and down, telling everyone, I was like, look at this, Mercedes liked my photo, huh?
So it,
So
it,
yeah,
it is it is absolutely fantastic. I said I would definitely see this one in a magazine, and it's funny how people think that to get to certain shots again you need to have such a profession. Got the crane, you got the gimbal out, and instead with a little bit of creativity and of course a little bit of personal risk, you can achieve very similar results. I mean, again, this is fantastic, and again, if I remember correctly from the beginning of our conversation, you sort of started with that. So this was sort of at the beginning of your career, right? Potentially quite early on,
this
or very recent?
this was around midway through my
Okay.
career. So not too, I mean, I started off with automotive and I kind of drifted away from that simply because it was I did not have the time to organize, cars and, meet people just because schedules didn't line up. And so one day I was just like, really, I saw like some car photography videos on YouTube, and I was like, really, really just wanted to go out and take photos. So I was like, call up my friend Harley. I'm like, we got to do this. So we shot that, and I was, yep, that's really good. I'm really, really happy with that.
And so you mentioned your friends like a few times. Do you have a community? Do you have a local community in Chiang Mai, or it's just literally friends that share the same, by chance, the same passion?
Funnily enough, I'm actually working with another friend of mine to not any friend I mentioned prior, but where is he from again? I believe he's Irish or from Ireland. And I met him recently, and so he moved to Chiang Mai from Koh Samui, and he wants to. And me and him are working on a photographer and like kind of model group for Chiang Mai, so that photographers can find models easier and stuff like that. And this is mainly English speaking, right? Because I'm sure there are groups in Thai, but the problem is, most of the expats here or foreigners can't speak Thai, and this is so that's mainly aimed at kind of like travel influencers and travel photographers, people who maybe are here short term and kind of want to get some content or something like that. So we're working on that at the moment. It's been going pretty steadily. We host weekly, not weekly, sorry, like we try to host at least once a month, like photo walks. So we'll bring a bunch of models who want to maybe practice or build up a portfolio, and a bunch of photographers as well, and we'll just kind of walk around the city. We'll decide where we want to meet, and then we go around taking photos together. It's a good way to meet new people, new photographers and models, and it's just great fun to kind of like build a community. But yeah, unfortunately I don't have many friends who are or share the passion of photography. There are a few friends who do take photos, but I would say definitely none who take it as seriously as me or are on the same kind of wavelength and level as me, because simply because they have other stuff that they do, you know, so they can't put that much time and effort into photography as a skill set.
Of course, of course. And so all this activity, especially this community, did you feel any negative impact because of COVID? How was the situation from a professional point of view over there? Because here it was a like everything sort of shut down for and it's still down for over a year. Do you feel the same impact on your side?
I mean, Thailand has been really, really good with this. I mean, we've haven't had a lockdown yet. I mean, the only lockdown we've had is kind of like restricting people from coming in into Thailand. And so, you know, I mean, there was a few months where we had a curfew, so you got to go home at a certain time. I think it was like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, right? Unless you're commuting from work or you know you were working I forgot what's the term, like maybe like a public servant job, or not public servant, but you know, if you're working in a hospital or you're
Yeah,
like a policeman or
like
something
a
like that,
essential
obviously
essential worker.
essential
Yeah.
worker, yeah.
Yes.
And so you know, honestly, it's been pretty much almost normal, just less people, less tourists, because Chiang Mai is Thailand in general is a pretty tourist heavy country, you know, a lot of tourists all the time. So, you know, we've noticed that not that many tourists anymore. It's business in terms of locally has been very, very quiet. You know, you know, a lot of shops are closing. As well, you know, I because I have a restaurant and a family business, we've noticed, you know, that it's gone down quite a bit. We know tons of other people who own small businesses, they've had to close either temporarily or permanently, but luckily for us, we've been pretty good. Not a huge hit for us. And so it's a bit hard to say because it's a little bit of a special case. It's hard to compare it to anywhere else or majority of the Western world, because you know over there it's pretty much full lockdown. You know, we have the standard, you know, wear the mask, take temperature, and you know, we have some government programs where you got to sign into certain places and so they can track where you've been. But you know, it's hard to say because like I said, majority of my work has actually been during this whole COVID thing, so I don't really know what it would be like without it. So you know, it's hard to say. I think that definitely it's been a bit harder and people have been a little bit more scared. Like weddings are a big thing that have been canceled and pushed back, like events as well. You know, if you have parties or like concerts and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely on that side, I can definitely see why people would be struggling, and there's definitely less work for people who specialize in that niche. What else? It's hard to say. Videography, I guess, as well. You know, if you're doing videos for events and weddings, as well, it could be, you know, just auto sports, motorsports. Um, but otherwise, I can't see a huge negative impact in general, because a lot of the stuff happens behind or in a certain setting. So, you know, if you're shooting a commercial or you're shooting fashion photography, you usually do at a studio. So I think people are just a little bit worried about COVID, but here it doesn't seem to be a huge problem. So I think it's pretty much unaffected in some areas. Obviously, there's definitely been a little bit of a reduction in overall work availability, because you know the companies, they're selling less, so they have less budget to spend on marketing and you know, content. So yeah, definitely, but there hasn't been a huge or dramatic change unless you specialize in niches that require, you know, large groups of people or, you know, large scale events, that sort of ordeal. So yeah, not a huge difference unless you work in those niches.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was my impression as well. I mean, that's also quite. I mean, obviously, we're looking back at this and the fact that you know you guys haven't closed and you had the opportunity to continue to more or less to something in the same way that it was before. Obviously, businesses have suffered a little bit, but here, the complete shutdown means that many people, especially photographers, really, really stopped. And some did take the opportunity to sort of sit down and rethink the businesses and also learn new things. And as you said, I'm very pleased that we mentioned, the drones and the technological developments, but also the different media and the different way now people can create content again, because the world is changing, and again, this epidemic is here to stay, likely. And obviously you guys have managed quite well, but I think it was a reflection for everyone to sort of say, okay, what am I doing today, what I was doing, probably will not be able to do it in the next 5 years in the same way. I better change now rather than just wait to slowly sort of closing down shop. So that's that was interesting from hearing the people that I've interviewed from various parts of the world. And again, full lockdown to no, almost nothing, although a slight decrease. And yeah, that's is always interesting to know that. And I also wanted to ask you, so now you have a few years of experience, and what is something that you know now that you wish you knew before when you started, it would really help you avoiding some mistakes, or sped up your learning process, or the transition to full-time professional.
I definitely say to myself, don't spend so much money on camera shit you don't need. That's definitely a big thing. I think that's the thing that a lot of people I think definitely if you're going to get into the world of photography and videography, filmmaking and stuff like that, you really got to plan out your kind of path on, especially with gear, like, okay, so if I buy this, what upgrade options are available for me, So for example, it doesn't make much sense to buy a Sony and then in a couple of years change to Canon, because now you have all the Sony lenses that you can't really use with your Canon cameras, right? Unless you buy an adapter, but then, you sometimes run into problems with lenses. And so it definitely just makes, definitely a huge thing would be, to kind of be a little bit more firm on myself, especially when I was first starting out, to really plan thoroughly what I would do, because there were a few purchase decisions that I regretted. I lost only a little bit of money on them. So in the long run, I came out net positive for me. I didn't lose any money because luckily enough, most of the stuff that I did invest in, I ended up paying off with jobs that conveniently just arrived for me. I got right when I purchased that stuff. But definitely, if I were not that lucky, it might have been a hassle. I might have definitely have a less equipment available for me to use because I wouldn't have been as fortunate. So definitely a big thing would be to plan carefully, your future purchases, and like what your plan is. You got to think about yourself, think to yourself, okay, so what equipment do I need to do the jobs that I want to do, right? And for example, if I'm going to do a video shoot, do I need a gimbal? If I'm shooting commercials, what kind of lighting setup do I need and stuff like that? And you got to think to yourself, okay, does it make sense for me to purchase them, or would be the better alternative just to be rent them, right? Or do I know someone who can borrow them to me? That's a huge thing as well. Renting, definitely rent before you buy anything. That's something I would say to anyone. Try stuff out before you buy it, because if you regret it, that's a quite hefty price you have to pay. And as for something that would help speed me up, definitely I would say just try to do more, experiment more. If someone comes to me with a job that I'm not that confident with, or something that I think like I wouldn't be happy with doing, I would say just do it anyways, just so I can get experience and kind of even expand my portfolio more. I've been fortunate enough that I didn't have to turn down many jobs. As well as dealing with clients, I definitely say make sure that you get everything sorted out on paper beforehand. I've had one incident with a client which was not that nice. I felt really bad, although nothing was my fault, to be honest. Um, but still, at the end of the day, even though I did what was requested of me, I still felt pretty bad because they were not happy with me and my work. But luckily, that's only been one time. So yeah, definitely make sure that I have all my, when you're meeting a client, sorry, that everything is already set set in writing, and that we both know what's expected of each other. So that way I don't run into any headaches in the near future.
Yeah, this is the only thing, when you work with clients, it's a classic. You realize how important it is to, have at least a little bit of contractual documentation to set up the expectation in writing, that we're on the same page, because then, memory tends to blur. And especially if someone, had different ideas and say, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And then they receive the bill, they're just disappointed, right? That's normal, and always set things up. And yeah, and don't rush, even if a job is urgent, but that's something that you learn, and and that's how you grow. I really like your attitude of, just do, try stuff. You figure it out. You're smart. You need to be confident in yourself, your ability to learn, your ability to deliver. And like everybody else, you will be able to do so even in a domain then it's not yours yet. And actually it's an opportunity, it's a paid opportunity to learn, right? Why turn it down?
Mm.
um Daniel, this has been like a fantastic conversation. I've learned a lot, and I hope the people will listen to this as well. Where can people find you, on social media, and to contact you for, potential job opportunities or for other things related to your photography and videography?
Well, I guess most people here would say their website. I don't have a website yet because I'm still working on one or planning to. I think that, if I'm going to do something like that, I really want to make sure that my portfolio is like nice and juicy and crisp. So at the moment, just my Instagram, it's at Daniel.Sofar, because Sofr is taken by my personal account. And I have a YouTube channel as well, just Daniel Sofr. And so you can just contact me there. On Instagram and YouTube mainly. I just do a bit of YouTube just for fun, documenting my experiences. But if you ever want to, feel free to ask questions. If you want to need help with anything, just send me a message on Instagram. I respond pretty fast. I'm pretty happy to help out anyone who needs any help with anything, videography, photography, drones, or whatever. Or if you just want to chat, I'm definitely more than happy to.
Fantastic. But I can definitely vouch. I mean, you're super fast in replying. You're super helpful. Very, very available. So I know that everybody else will receive the same treatment and experience. And obviously, I'll make sure to link everything in the description and hopefully in the video itself. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. It's nice to talk to other photographers and people who are in the same kind of niche, and just kind of broadcast your opinions. I think it's very interesting to see what kind of experiences and what people have to say about photography. I mean, it's not just photography. Just whatever people do, and people are this whole collection of experiences and memories and thoughts. That's what makes us human. And it's so interesting to see what other people think, because they've had these such different, it's like I cannot even begin to imagine what other people have experienced, and what their mentality is like, and being able to express that and share it with other people, and absorb other people's experiences, kind of to process them and think about them, like, oh, that's pretty interesting, like, oh, I never thought about that. I think that's just in general a very, very interesting and nice thing, and definitely something that I love to do.
Yeah, but this is the aim of this type of conversation. Like, obviously, photography is just the hook, but then of
Mm.
course, what photography is just the results of our personal experience, inclinations, and it's a great way to then share our point of view, again, in an artistic way. But there's much more behind, and this is what we're trying to explore in this. Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you.